This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be on the run. See, we've got some stuff in our briefcase and we're going to be running through cars and trains and planes and automobiles and trying to get off scot-free as the fugitive, but people are going to be trying to get us as the marshal. Here we are looking at the game called Fugitive, and this is for a two-player asymmetrical experience. It sort of feels like a hidden movement type of game. So let me show you how it's played and I'll see you on the other side. In the Fugitive, one player plays the fugitive. They're trying to escape all the way through, where the marshal's trying to deduce where they are using their little notebook and dry erase to try to figure out where they are through the course of the game. Now, how the fugitive escapes is being able to play this 42 card and they get off in the plane. They're going to start with some of the cards of 1, 2, and 3, and there's cards of each number throughout the deck between 0 and 42. And look at the artwork. I love the artwork in this game where it's showing that it's basically a story of them going through the fugitive running away and the marshal trying to catch them. The marshal's a girl here. That's actually the marshal here. And so those are the cards that the fugitive actually will start with. Now here's the board. There's 3 different decks showing you what range of numbers are within each of the decks. This 00 card starts out on the board. Now also, in addition to those 1, 2, 3, and 42 cards that the fugitive start with, they also start with 3 random cards from this deck, the 4 to 14, and 2 cards from here, and these are added to the rest of their hand. So the fugitive will actually have all those cards they just took, plus these, and all of these cards will be secret and held so the other player can't see them. Now the fugitive starts first, and their first turn's a little different. They get to place 2 hideouts, and to place a hideout, they're going to place, possibly one way of doing it is just placing 1 card face down. And what this means is that this one single card has to be no more than 3 than the previous card. Whether this is face up or face down, the fugitive will know. So this is 00, so this card has to be a 1, a 2, or a 3. But now they're going to lay down a second hideout right next to it. Again, always ascending, and never more than 3 more than the card that's before it. Now let's say for the second hideout, they go like this. Under the card that is the number, they can actually put as many of these cards as they want underneath. Now what those cards do, let me just show you. Each of these cards have either 1 or 2 shoes on them, and that's sprinting. So this card could have 1 or 2 shoes. So normally we could move 3 more than this, plus however many shoes are on any of the cards that you sprint with below it. And again, you can put as many as you want here, but the fugitive has a limited amount of cards. So they've placed their 2 hideouts. Then it would go to the marshal's turn. Now the marshal can draw any 2 cards. Now anytime you're drawing cards, you can draw it from any of these. The marshal might want to just completely empty this out as a strategy to roadblock them at the end of the game, or they might want to try to find out more information now. So let's say they take 2 cards here. They take it into their hand. So the marshal keeps these secret, they don't let the other players see, and they keep this secret as well, and they've marked off 5 and 11 because they know that that card cannot be in the fugitive's hand or in a hideout because there's only 1 of each card in the game. Now still in this first turn, the marshal gets to guess 1 or more hideouts. If they guess 1, they just say a number, like 3. And if either of these 2 top cards hideouts is a 3, they would flip it over. If it's the actual hideout with sprints below it, they would flip over all the cards so they get a lot more information, or maybe they say no. They can also try to guess more hideouts, and this is risky because they have to say more than 1 number. So let's say they say 1 and 4, and so if both of these are 1 and 4, they would flip them over. If even just one of them are wrong, they would just say no. So it's very risky because you're going for a lot of information, but if it's not all right, you don't get any. Then it would be the fugitive's turn again. And from now on, they don't just place 2 hideouts, they just draw a card. And when you draw a card, 1 from any of these, and then they may place a hideout or they can pass. So sometimes they might just pick a card and say pass, or pick a card and then lay down a hideout. So that's pretty much the fugitive's turn. And for all other turns for the marshal, they draw a card from any one of these 3, and then they guess to find 1 or more hideouts as I described earlier. Let's say it's a little bit later, it's the marshal's turn, and they've been guessing all higher numbers here because of sprint, and they finally say 2. And sure enough, this player had a 2, so they have to flip up both of these, and sure enough, it was a bluff. It was 2, and there was a sprint. Now this could have went up to 4 by itself, but it only went 2 and they put a sprint. So they were bluffing that they were going far where they really weren't, just to throw them off there. But now we come here, and again, you can bluff with this. So say it was a future turn and they say 8. And this gets flipped up as an 8, but then so do all of these as well. And this also was a little bit of a bluff because from 2, they could have gotten a 5 with just one card. 6, 7, 8, 9. They could have gone to 9, but they over sprinted and just put up to 8 again to move a little bit faster, but also bluffing. So there's a lot of cat and mouse that goes on here. Now this continues until the Fugitive's either able to play the 42 card face up legally, and then they automatically win, or if all of the hideouts are face up, none of them are face down, then the Fugitive wins. Now there's all sorts of different event cards, and there's different ways to play with them. My favorite is called the catch-up event, and these event placeholders get put just in the normal decks like normal. When someone bids it up like this, they then get an event. If basically depending on who's ahead. If the Fugitive's ahead, then we get to do a Marshals event. If the Marshal's ahead, then the Fugitive gets an event, and if it's pretty much even, then they get an even event. They do different things like, hey, the Marshal, the next time you would guess a hideout, you may not guess a single, you have to guess multiple, which is harder to do. If you're here, it helps the Fugitive out. Marshal, choose a face-down sprint card. The Fugitive must tell you the sprint number. So this helps the Marshal out. And then a neutral one, say when you draw this card, look at a random card in your opponent's hand and then return it. So there's lots of event cards. There's actually a ton of them here, and they all do different things and different ways to use them. All right, well, there's the Fugitive. Now, hidden movement and deduction games are among my absolute favorite style of games, period. I love games like Letters from Whitechapel and Spectre Ops and even some of the classics like Scotland Yard and things like that. And this takes a different twist at it because it's not really a board game, it's really a card game, right? It fits right in your pocket, it's tiny. Well, not necessarily in your pocket, but in your backpack for sure. It doesn't take up a lot of room, but it has that same feeling. I think the game did a great job of making you feel like you're playing a bigger, larger game like some of those other ones without it taking the time. I mean, the game really takes about 20 minutes to play, really. And both sides feel the way that I think, those games should feel, where both sides should feel like the other side really has an advantage. When the other Fugitive run away, you're like, oh man, this is tough. They know where I am, I'm paranoid, I'm getting stress on my neck. And then when you're the Marshal, you're like, man, they just seem to be getting away. I just can't figure this out. And you always feel like the other side's more powerful, even though they're quite balanced. And I think that's an excellent design from Tim Fowers here. I love the aspect of, hey, you can only move 3, right, from what's there with one card. And so that allows them to start deducing things. But when you add those sprints, that really adds a lot of depth to the game because you're trying to figure out, okay, are they wasting a lot of cards to just bluff and sprint their way out? Because that's really costly, because in this game, every card counts. So if you're going to bluff with that, wow, it does throw them off, and you might be able to get them off for 2 or 3 turns, but once that's there and they flip all those over and you're really running for the life of it, man, it always comes down to the end. So it's one I liked quite a bit. I highly recommend playing this with the events, and my favorite way to play is the catch-up one, the one where some random event cards will come out. As people are drawing cards, they'll get to replace those with their normal cards. But depending on who's winning, like an event will help the other player. And my last game playing this, most recently, I was the Marshal, and I was getting my clock clean. He did a great job bluffing early, and an event came up that really helped me, actually 2 of them in a row, and it caught me right back up. But then as the events came up, they were neutral, then they started helping them, and it really helped, balance the seesaw of the game. So I really think man, this is such a good game, such a small package, it's inexpensive. If you like that hidden movement style deduction game, this is definitely one to check out because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I definitely can recommend it to you. So if you like that style of game, or if you don't even know you like it and you want to dip your toe in it in an inexpensive game that you're not going to be taking 90 minutes to 2 hours, excellent way to do that with the Fugitive.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.